When a customer comes to me at the bank, I want them to feel like it's on a personal level. A lot of my existing customers, I feel like we're more family than just a customer-banker relationship, and that I'm doing everything I can to help them. And when they leave my desk, I want them to say, wow, that Shelly Kearns at Happy State Bank really cares about me, and I want them to tell their friends and family that.
Keep you all over the field.
Call this little work session to order and let Mr. Atkinson take us through this deal.
Thank you, Mayor. If we could, let's begin talking about water. You have in your hands a press release that is now officially being released. Mr. Press and other Mr. Press over on the other side, and the simplest fares for anybody would like them. The line at Carson County, all of the repairs, all of the testing, all of that has been completed. All the tests are good. That line was put back in service at full flow at 9 o'clock this morning, so it is running. What we would, however, like to do, and just cannot emphasize enough, the performance of the public, both in Amarillo and Canyon, over the last 2 days, as those water use numbers have come down. We really need that to continue for another 2 to maybe 3 days to try to get a little bit of recovery in the reservoir. And for today, very importantly, to account for what's going on with Xcel Energy and the energy grid.
I don't know that. Can you explain that?
Yes, Xcel issued an alert sometime before lunch today that they've had a couple of generators come offline. And in the process of doing so, that's going to put the grid at maximum capacity today. So just as we did Sunday, where we asked people to reduce your use, they have asked electrical consumers to reduce their use. Thank you. Obviously, that's important for many reasons, not the least of which, this time of year, your water system and the water system from Grimlaw are two of the single largest users of electricity. We can't afford now to have basically suffered this failure and in about 48 hours put that line back in service and started that flow up and have any risk that we might have to cut back on our water production. What we are going to do, and what we are in the process of doing, is shedding all of the other electric loads if the city can. For example, the wastewater plants are either going to go into some standby work or begin to work on generators that we have. And we can take a pretty good load off by doing that. Some of the transfer pumps, not that feed the system, but that feed like Xcel itself, we'll work on taking those offline, all with the goal of keeping the supply side of the system running and running at full capacity and meeting the demand and minimizing the drawdown out of our reservoir. Xcel contacted us early today and they've worked with us very well in doing so. They understand the importance of it, but it's just like us with the water. We have a finite amount of water we can deliver. They have a finite amount of electricity that they can deliver. They're able to get their generation back up, it kind of becomes probably not an issue, and certainly I can't not qualified to speak for them. But for us, the goal is to keep the water system running, to start our recovery process, either minimize or stop the drawdown coming out of that reservoir.
Is there a place on the agenda that, Mr. Mayor, that we're going to talk about that?
Well, you do have that under item B8 if you choose to do that off of the front cover. We've worked, of course, continually with the City of Canyon. They were here with us Sunday as we began to address this problem. They are still standing shoulder to shoulder with us today as this press release goes out, encouraging their residents to follow through just as Amarillo's have and to continue to do so. Give you an example, this is approximate because the numbers, I haven't had time to memorize it. We probably pulled down better than 2 feet in 2 days on our reservoir, which still leaves us in that 40% zone that's there for the use, but doesn't leave a whole lot. So we really need some recovery.
Well, and I think it would behoove us to mention, thank God we had that reservoir.
Absolutely.
I mean, we would have been in deep ditch.
Yes.
We had no other source.
That was the technical term that Brian used on Sunday, wasn't it?
Send out we have to keep the pressure above a certain amount, about 28 pounds. Does the reservoir directly do that? It's more the pumping stations and the towers?
And the elevated tanks, yes.
Okay, and they were all secure? They were full?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. From the downstream point that they isolated below the break, from that point through the entirety of the city system, you kept up all of your pressures, you kept everything up exactly where, the only piece that lost was that roughly 2-mile gap where that 45-inch line was isolated. That's the part that after the repairs were made was chlorinated and flushed and chlorinated and tested.
I think we could do this, as soon as we do the minutes, is go back and have you give this pressure release.
And I have a bit of show and tell. I know that y'all are very, very well aware of this, but I don't know that everybody is. And what does one of those pipes look like? You know, what is it?
Ask.
People, well, and rightfully so. This is not. This is pipe
45
that's
inches is serious.
custom made. This peeled off piece is actually where the eruption occurred. There were 2 of these. It opened up kind of like a flower. Kind of like a flower. This steel, and you can't tell because of the saw, but that's about 1/8 of an inch thick. This piece of steel as a pipe is where this starts. This is actually a piece of concrete out of the break. This is the piece that fits on the inside. So the inside of your pipe is entirely that. Around it, the outside of it, is a piece of reinforcing steel. Obviously this piece isn't round anymore, but this is the shape. That fits like that. That's under tension and under pressure. It's compressing that steel cylinder and it's welded to it. When you finish that, this will show you how closely together. See the grooves? That fits over it. There. Fits over it like that. And that makes the entirety of that pipe.
If you see the bottom of that, you can see how far those are spaced, right, an inch apart.
You can see how close that reinforcing
And
wrap
there was enough
is around
force.
it.
Well, you know, you
And
think that
it
that
sheared.
was amazing until you think about Powder Canyon. Then you go, yeah, water's really strong. Water can do that stuff.
A mile of that pipe's got 8.65 million pounds of water in it at 70 PSI and moving faster than you can comfortably walk.
Wow.
So the forces inside of here are pretty tremendous. But this construction method, number one, is what makes it last so long and be so durable and be so tough. It's also why it was so important that we had those pieces that were still on hand. We'll now need to start replacing that big piece that we used. And there's only 2 plants that I'm aware of, there may be more, but I think there's only 2 plants in this general area that can make this stuff. This is a 45-inch pipe, nobody uses 45 anymore. So they'll have to spool up and make us a series of that 45-inch pipe that we'll put back into storage for when we need it.
Okay. Hopefully.
Anybody want to see any of that, or
No, that's all good.
pretty amazing?
Yeah, are you gonna do show and tell out there?
I don't know that from out there anybody will be able to really see that.
Okay.
I'll do whatever y'all would like me to do.
I
You
think
might,
the
you might
description-
pass this piece around. This is the inside. This is where the water's been.
And it's smooth, isn't it?
This is the piece that's up against the, excuse me, the pipe.
George asked a good question on Sunday, and that is, when are we gonna know the cost? You know.
We'll know it soon. That just hasn't
Of course,
been
it
the
doesn't
prime
matter.
focus.
It doesn't matter, I'm just saying, it's interesting to know, you know? And,
There's money in the water fund.
and it's probably maybe less than we would imagine, because we had the parts in, but we're gonna have to replace them.
Well,
That's
20,000,
something.
a 20,000-pound piece of pipe's gonna be expensive.
20,000-pound piece of pipe's gonna be expensive. What's expensive is that, again, it's not something that somebody has
Laying out in the yard.
laying out in the yard that we can go buy. They'll have to spool the factory up and make that.
People are that concerned about costs and costs, and what are they gonna do?
I know, but it's just interesting to know what happened, how much it costs when something like that happens.
Concrete, but the aggregate is very, very, very small. the aggregate in the other piece is more like you normally think of as concrete.
Which is why you need reserves.
This won't even get
It's
reserved.
sand. It's like architectural sand or something. It's pretty. Okay.
All right, any questions or comments on that?
Did a
No,
great
just
job. getting us-
thank everyone.
Well,
Thank everyone.
Marvelous job.
the city staff, from Jared on down, it was just amazing. And what they could do, and how fast they could do it, and how lucky we were to have S.J. Lewis here
On the other job.
on the Potter County field, and that piece of equipment that they had, that excavator, backhoe, and the operator that they had to run it. I mean, it was a misfortune that we had the eruption or the break or whatever you want to call it, but outside of that, the stars were lined up for us.
So you think about that all being done on a Sunday.
True.
And, you know, they said that guy picked up that pipe like he'd pick up his pencil and move it around. Just
Put it right
in
down
there.
between the two ends.
Pretty good.
He was good.
Well, Brian called me Sunday morning and said, Ellen, are you Mayor Pro Tem still? And I said, I'm not sure. And he said, well, we have a really major problem. And I didn't know you were out of town. So I said,
Call
Is
Paul.
Paul okay? Is Paul alive? And so he said, oh, yeah, he's just out of town.
Paul's the
I was like,
problem.
okay, how major could the problem be? If we're all okay, you know, everybody's okay.
That new grandbaby got baptized Sunday, so.
All right.
Well, I would follow that up, certainly. The city crews were Johnny on the spot, all the equipment. Of course, S.J. Lewis, absolutely critical to what we did. Several local rental companies that were providing pumps and so forth to us. The actual welding, I think I sent y'all some pictures that, I'm not gonna tell you what they call those straps that join those things. That welding was accomplished by a local Amarillo contractor, Mays Welding.
Well, the individual
An individual.
is probably the best welder
Mhm.
in this whole part of the country, and
Yeah.
he was here.
Sammy Mays came out starting about 7. And I was back at 7 the next morning, he was still there.
Really, you worked a lot like that.
The other good thing to see, Jim, is to be in the ELC again, see everybody come together and work so well together. And all, you know, like Canyon was there, Emma was there, everybody's working together.
Well, you know, in the midst of that, we got an offer from Excel Energy that if they had equipment we could use, they would be glad to bring it and provide operators. Of course,
Textile.
what they do and what we do is not often common equipment, but it was nonetheless that you've got that kind of support. TxDOT provided one of the trash pumps that we ended up using, and y'all saw the picture that made the pipe look like it was alive with the suction hoses coming out of it. Quite a deal.
It was amazing,
He just said that
amazing. Well, job well done.
Well done.
Yeah, well, it's
Got us out of trouble again.
Well, and to have a major break like that, and that's half of our water supply coming through that pipe. It burst. And yet it's fixed and up and running in how many hours?
Give or take
48 hours.
You know, the thing is, though, I have never been so proud to be a citizen here,
Yes, sir.
to see what the people in Amarillo did.
That's
yeah,
right.
that's true too.
We sent that message out, and
Oh.
you could see the water usage going down. And to think that these folks all stood up, shut her down, pulled 20 million gallons out of the system in one day,
Yeah.
is nothing short of miraculous.
What was the use?
It dropped for, it was at 58 when we got the ESC, the first reading. When I left at about 4 o'clock, the last reading coming around, was it 52, I think they had gone down to.
Yeah, the
And
total
normally on
use,
Sunday
the total
afternoon,
use for the day was higher than that, but that doesn't count what happened from midnight to when all that started. We did get about 13 million out of Carson Sunday before the break.
Well, I haven't seen in my route, anybody using their sprinkler, but people are asking, so I think it'd be a good thing to talk about today.
Well, I came back at 10:45 at night Sunday, and they were all on.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
They had Sunday night, the businesses didn't go turn them off. Sunday they were.
We asked them to.
We did.
Well,
Of course, that's, had the mayor pro tem instead of the big guy.
Yeah, if he'd have been here, I'm sure it would have been magical.
I'd have had that washboard out there yesterday.
Yeah, I was gonna say it for you, but
I know.
they wouldn't
I
mind.
appreciate that. Let's move on.
Okay, Mary, if we could, before we jump onto your agenda, item 2 in your work session was actually the discussion and the review of the proposed budget and associated tax rate. As we noted, this is an item that's on the list and will stay on the list until we complete your budget process there toward the end of September. Is there any questions, any need to have that discussion now, or do we want to go ahead and start in on our agenda?
No, the only thing I would tell you is refer to some websites about Tulsa's problem. Tulsa has 121 street projects going right now today as we sit here. They have $1.6 billion allocated to fix something when they cut off funding for street repaving 20 years ago. They made no provision to fix that. And today they have $1.6 billion allocated. They're a town of 589,000 people, 3 times our size. We interpolate that backwards, I still believe we're getting a bargain to do it for a penny, because they'll basically, if it was our size, they'd be spending about $560 million to fix it. And it's horrendous. They said it won't be finished until the year 2022. 2022, that's how long it's going to take them to catch up. If you want to see it, it's pretty amazing. There's some video about it online. And there's some from '08 when they started to address it, and some today. And there's maps of all the streets that are blocked, and there's video of all the streets blocked. And they expect that to go on until the year 2020 or 2022.
And that's because they did not address
They
it
took
when
it
they
off.
had the opportunity.
Well, they actually did a little worse. They actually took it off as an item 20 years ago, as a
Totally.
COVID item, to save their budget.
Hmm.
And there was
Just
they
take the
went from
streets
a,
completely off the budget.
they went from a city manager, weak mayor form of government to a strong mayor, and he did that. And then they got rid of that system and put it back with the city manager. And they now started to recoup it, but the effects were horrendous. Pretty interesting.
I bet we could Google Tulsa
You can, it's
streets.
real easy. That's all I have. I mean, I think that's, hopefully we're gonna be able to put this penny through.
Keep on trucking.
Okay, well, again, that'll stay on the agenda. Next week is your first tax rate hearing. So you will have that next week. That will be an action item on the agenda, where you will have the public hearing during the meeting, and then you'll take a vote, and then you'll come back in a week to get first reading tax rate.
You have to have 2 readings on that.
You do 2 readings on your tax hearing, and then you follow that with 2 readings on the budget. Okay, moving right along to the agenda. We have Mr. Shelburne here with us today. We have minutes for item number 1. We have item number 2, a resolution considering the proposed downtown redevelopment projects as recommended. If I could, I'll kind of walk through setting the stage on this item, and then stop, and we have all the time that you need to ask questions, comments, suggestions. Commissioner Reed, I have that information you asked for, so after I run through this, please remind me, and we'll be sure to go over it.
Is it apropos for me to discuss how I intend to work out of this?
Absolutely, absolutely.
First of all, I want to make a correction. Jared, after we do the invocation, let's go right to your water report before we start the agenda.
Okay.
So we'll do you right after the prayer. As people are getting comfortable, welcome them to the meeting and turn it over to you for this press release. Then we'll go back and do the minutes. When we get to this, I'm suspecting, since this is really the last time for public comment as we do this, and we've got a bit of public comment, I make this suggestion to y'all to see if you agree, that we read the resolution and ask first for
You
public.
mean this paragraph, not the whole
No,
resolution?
read this paragraph, excuse me, read this resolution paragraph. And then ask for public comment. And I'm not gonna try and segregate this pro or con, I'm just gonna let people get up. Strictly enforce the 3-minute, ask them to really address the dais and not, the audience. They'll have their message and whatever it is, but I am not gonna try and separate the pros and the cons, and let them get up and let them respond. I am gonna restrain any comments till we're done, as much as possible, and I'd ask if I mean, after we hear everything, I think then I'll feel better about making some comment. If you like not to do that, though, our tradition has been to make our comments and then open it to the public. But it's up to you all. What do you think?
I would rather hear them and then.
First, and then we make comments.
Are you gonna make an appeal to the audience, be they pro or be they con?
Yes, I'm gonna actually ask, excuse me. I'm
That
sorry.
if someone says what you're planning on saying, they don't have to go and reinvent the whole wheel. Just say, I agree with the comments that so-and-so made, or
Gotcha.
the comments regarding this or that.
Well, and what-
To
yes, and what
conserve
I-
time.
Sure, and I don't know how many, we may have 5 people saying it, we may have 50. So what I'm gonna ask is people would raise their hands, since we're not doing the comment cards, if they're indicating they'd like to speak. We'll judge it based on that and keep it 3 minutes.
Let me ask you this, are you gonna set it up in a manner where they have their time for comment, then we have our comments, and then are you gonna let them have more additional times to comment and essentially debate than what you say, or is
No,
that time open?
I really think that we're best served to hear their input, make our comments and vote.
Well, okay, as long as, I'm just trying to
But
understand.
how do you
the fact-
feel about
Well,
that?
I'm just trying to understand that that's what you're saying. I think that's fine, but I think to have them do a wave of public comment, then our comments, and then let them have the second tsunami way, I just don't,
I don't
I
see
don't
the
think
need
that's
for
productive.
We don't want to have any back and forth.
I think that's fine.
But if you see something that you'd like to call somebody back up and ask them a question, I think that's appropriate, but I think that's your choice as a commissioner or as the mayor. But I think really we're gonna hear a lot of comments, we're gonna hear a lot of pros, we're gonna hear some cons, I don't know what we're gonna hear. But I'd like to change it up a little bit so we hear from the public about what it is, and then we respond if we like, and then we vote, if you all are okay with that.
Well, I think from a PR perspective, if we let them speak first before we have our discussion and vote, it will be more palatable to whomever is out there, that we at least heard them before we vote, so.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm sure there are concerns too that we need to address, and, I mean, not specifically Joe Bob said this, or Billy Bob said this, but, the
You're
overall
making a big
umbrella.
assumption.
If we see
You think
that,
you can hear something you hadn't heard?
if we see that, Ellen, I think we can respond properly from that. And we'll make
Yeah, I'm
notes
not
of
saying that I'm gonna address anybody specifically at all, I'm just gonna say, yeah, most frequently asked questions. Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell anybody here how to handle that, I think you're gonna make that decision. I just wanna set it up slightly differently where we don't give a speech.
I think that's a
and-
good plan,
Is
Mr.
that
Mayor.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Was this distributed as part of the agenda, or is that just for our own use?
There's a summation of all that actually captured inside the resolution that was distributed.
Because what I'm not seeing is the hearing.
It's in the resolution.
The hearing is in none of the budgets and has not been. The hearing is addressed in the resolution.
Okay.
And
Yeah, it's
we, in
mentioned.
fact, let's go ahead and,
Let's go through it, because there are several things.
go ahead. I'll read you the exact language on the hearing. It's proposed in the resolution. This is your resolution. You
That's what I
may
thought was important.
take it all, take none of it, modify it however you see fit. But section 2, letter F.
Well, I
of
think read the lead-in sentence. Read that
The
first.
city commission hereby accepts the following recommendations from WB for phase 1 of downtown redevelopment and civic center area. Letter A, development of the hotel, the MPEV, and the structured parking at the sites indicated on the land plan. B, creation of formal project agreements for the hotel, the MPEV, and structured parking. C, the initiation then of the formal project design process for each of the 3. D, proceed with the community process for the consideration of the phase 2 projects, as example, renovation, expansion of the civic center, development of the second parking garage, additional streetscape, etc. Letter E, proceed with consideration of the creation of a downtown public improvement district. And F, WB further recommends the acquisition of the Herring Hotel to preserve it for subsequent development consideration. The City Commission finds that the Herring Hotel is a significant downtown asset with historical and cultural value, and it should be preserved for future development possibility. On this recommendation, the City Commission then instructs the Amarillo Local Government Corporation, the city staff, the WB, to investigate the possibility of the acquisition of the Herring Hotel and to provide specific recommendation at the appropriate time.
To be the key words, investigate.
Mhm. And then Commissioner's very correct, it is not contemplated in your project budgets.
No,
Well, who knows what that's gonna look like?
we have no
Until we end
idea.
up with the acquisition.
And you're talking about the acquisition of, potential acquisition of real property. As
Mhm.
such, you have to be very careful how you structure the upfront part of that, because you could certainly endanger either the public's negotiating ability or the private
That's
owner's
right.
negotiating ability, or
I mean, it lists a lot of people.
We didn't bring this out, others did, but I think we have to be careful of that going forward.
And I thought that was gonna be one of the hot button issues again out here today, and so how we were gonna deal with the fact that it's in the document, yet it's not here. I thought it was gonna be kind of,
The only person that I dealt with that last week, I had a long meeting with Alan Abraham yesterday, and he said he's agreed that we are doing the right thing. We had about an hour and a half meeting, and he said, I'm satisfied with what you discussed. How you came about it didn't come about, because some of it was absolutely not in our purview to discuss which one was there. Private developers made the final decision with their money and how they wanted to do it. So he's very aware of that, and he's, someone else may bring it up, Commissioner, but I'm not sure.
Well, and then keep in mind, the reason I asked the city manager to read it from the start, the beginning of section 2, is because we're accepting the following recommendations. We're not approving any of this.
But out in the meeting, we're not expecting them to read every detail
No,
of that.
no.
We're just looking at this.
Well, but I'm just saying that in
For
this
us, yeah,
session.
absolutely. It's recommendation and it's investigating, it should be done.
Right.
There's still a lot of work to be done, and that's what that spells out.
EPA, yeah,
Mhm.
environmental studies,
Yeah.
all sorts.
We're just giving the go-ahead to do it, the rest of the work.
here was,
Study.
kind of my thought on what we could do, because we don't want to read the entirety of that resolution, although if it's asked, absolutely, we can do so. I think kind of to set the stage, and you group know this better than any, where you are today is kind of the culmination of several years' worth of work. You go back to your original Downtown Citizens Committee and steering groups, the ultimate creation of your strategic action plan, which was formally adopted in March of 2008. You had a subsequent study done by the Hunden Strategic Partners Group, specifically focusing on what was presumed to be the key element, having a convention center hotel. As a part and process of that, City Commission at the time said, yes, we need to pursue these endeavors. To do so, they also created a series of partners, a series of specialists to work on that. You had the creation, of course, of your tax increment reinvestment zone #1. You had the creation and funding of Downtown Amarillo Inc. And at a later date, you had the creation of the Amarillo Local Government Corporation. As we went through the process and a development firm was identified, the city negotiated a development agreement. The city received a proposal from your developer, all of which continued a public process that went back to those original committees that met and put this together. After receiving the proposal, in fact, as part of the development of the proposal, you were assisted in the review process by, again, those same partners plus some. Of course, Downtown Amarillo Inc., Tax Increment Reinvestment Zone, Center City, and your Amarillo Local Government Corporation, which was contemplated in the February 15th development agreement and then subsequently put into action shortly thereafter. To this date, that body has served you in an advisory capacity as an opportunity to tie together some very specific knowledge and wisdom of a group to be your first set of review. Also continuing with the public process. As that went on, the development group, Wallace Pajali, began the process of taking their proposal and recommending it out to the public or presenting it to the public. Further public meetings. Presentations and review by Downtown Amarillo Inc., by Center City, by Tax Increment Reinvestment #1, by Amarillo Local Government Corporation. Ultimately, the 1st of August, that same series, as modified by that process, presented to you, the City Commission. Following the week after that, many of these bodies had an opportunity to meet and to consider creating a recommendation. The recommendation was brought to you on August the 16th, again by your local government corporation, your tax increment reinvestment zone, DAI, and Center City, all of whom took the recommendations in the Wallace Pajali proposal and recommended that you, the City Commission, consider those with their favorable review. In addition to that effort, as this proposal was developed, the city staff, and others undertook an independent due diligence review in addition to trying to participate as we went in all this development. And I think the phrase participate is very important. What you have before you now, what you saw on the 16th, is not what it started at. This is a deal that, working with the developer and their experts, has continued to be refined and to be fit into something that can be done. As an example, on behalf of you, the City Commission, of course your city staff has worked on this. Representatives of Specialized Public Finance, that is your financial advisory firm. That is the group that, along with Mr. Frigo and his staff, is very largely responsible for the very good financial condition and high credit ratings that the City of Amarillo enjoys. Representatives from Fulbright and Jaworski, who are your bond counsel, a law firm of no small consequence, has participated in much of this. Representatives of Strasburger and Price, who is the law firm that helps you do your development agreement, law firm that has specific experience in these public-private partnerships. Also, as a sidebar, whom we would recommend we work with, presuming the commission says to take the next step. We ordered 2 independent reviews of the financial pro formas, that being done by Convention Sports and Leisure for the MPET and HBS Inc. to review the Wyndham proposal in pro forma as far as your convention hotel. I believe we have provided to y'all all of the results of that. Where you stand today, then, certainly after comment, discussion, and if need be, any modification, is to take an action. That action is to consider the recommendations that are before you. In a very brief summary of what's contained in that resolution, those recommendations are the use of the recommended consultants, design, and operators that are who put this together and brought it forward. The approval of the conceptual renderings. That's not approving design. That's the concept that you've seen, and those are the big images that we have. The use of the properties in accordance with the revised land plan, which is basically where everything fits and sits. Hotel, multi-purpose event venue, and structured parking, as has been presented to you. Negotiation of formal agreements, if you choose to tell us to move forward. Continued development of phase 2, some of these we read just a moment ago. Consideration of the downtown public improvement district. Investigation of the possibility of acquiring the Herring. The financing model and the budgets as proposed. I think very importantly, something to be extremely cognizant of as you move forward, this resolution makes the handoff. It puts the transfer of this project within the boundaries that have been identified in front of your local government corporation. The local government corporation was created specifically to have this happen at some point in the future. The local government corporation is the vehicle created and preferred by state law to handle these types of projects. This is the group that has authorities. I think in the past we've likened them to how an economic development corporation functions in terms of being able to use different types of service delivery and construction delivery and those types of things. And very importantly for the City Commission and the residents of Amarillo, your local government corporation becomes kind of a corporate shield. It's a layer of protection for the public and for the City Commission. Should you make this handoff today, the development agreement that we have becomes theirs. The implementation of these recommendations becomes theirs. You are in effect drawing a box or writing the rule book around it with the items contained in your resolution. That corporation functions within inside that box that's been created. This then is their project. They then, that 7-member board, are who oversees the work of that. Now, the Herring is outside of that. Should there come a future recommendation, the Herring should be bought for X, Y, and Z, that ultimately will need to come back to the City Commission. If there are material changes in a project or in a budget, that comes back to the City Commission. But the administrative, management, and routine function of these projects going forward are the purview of that local government corporation. If we're in construction and there's change orders that are not material changes to the project, i.e. you told us you built 300 rooms and now you only say 220, that would come back to the commission. We wanted left-hand opening doors and now we want right-hand opening doors. That will not come back to the city commission. Routine transfers between line items, just the management of projects of these magnitudes within what are normal and customary guidelines remains with that local government corporation. The resolution does require them to provide you back on a regular basis reports. It will not be a vacuum. Of course, the LGC is a public body bound by the same Public Information Act, Open Meetings Act, etc., as is the City Commission or any other public body. But I think that's a key element to this, that this is one of those decision points in that tree that we've all seen. And I think finally and very importantly, this resolution, should you approve it as it is a formal statement of your thanks and appreciation to this truly large group of people who have contributed their time and their expertise and their knowledge has been necessary to get us to this point. With that, Commissioner Eads, I'll speak directly to your question and then stop. And Dean, myself, Marcus, Vicki, if she's ran away, we'll try to answer any and all questions that we can. You heard over the last couple of weeks concern on behalf of your arts groups, the groups what are termed the resident companies at the Globe News Center. That is primarily the symphony, the ballet, and the opera. Of course, the WOW, Windows on a Wider World program, is a resident, but that's truly kind of a separate and apart. They don't do performances. That's an educational and cultural opportunity, primarily for younger children, elementary age children. The mayor, Commissioner Robertson Green, convened a meeting. Hard to believe this, Mayor, but I think that was just 1 week ago today.
That's amazing.
Had a meeting with the executive directors, selected members of the boards of each of those. Probably those 4 groups were represented by 8 or 9 people in total. The mayor, the commissioner, myself, Ms. Covey, and Sherman Bass. Expressed their concerns to us in summation. I think their concerns, of course, number one, are fiscal, as are everybody's concerns as we move forward. In the case of the potential monetary impact, that's the facility fee, that 10% on the ticket, and then what, if any, impact rental rates might have on them. I think, and again, not speaking on their behalf, but based on visits and even emails with them, I think a greater concern is just how do we help them manage their way through this period of construction. Where will their customers or patrons park? How will you drop off, pick up? How do we manage our way through that? I think that's a primary concern for them. And ballot. I would say it's not something we haven't worked through before. Certainly you had 2 blocks totally out of service as the Globe News Center was being built. We went back, took their concerns, took some suggestions that they had provided to us. Some of the board members were very helpful to us, as were all of the executive directors. And here's kind of the proposal that we've made. And other than maybe some of the percentages, this is actually very consistent with what would happen everywhere else as a result of this project. To keep all the years straight, year 1 is the current year, 2011, 2012. Now, our year, we think October to September. Their years are a little different, but nonetheless, today. There are no changes for what they're doing. Their seasons are open and active. Their ticket sales, their season ticket sales, and all of that stuff's in place, and we don't need to change any of that. Beginning year 2, 2012, 2013, excuse me, the 10% facility fee would be implemented as it would across, the entirety of the operation. There would not be a rental increase at that point.
You're talking about ticket surcharge.
No rental increase today. They enjoy a favorable rate so that they can stay there and operate and use the Globe News Center as a resident company. I believe what they call the rack rate, or the posted rate, kind of like the card on the back of your hotel room door. The rack rate at the Globe News Center is $1,250 for the use of the performing center, and they pay about $750.
They pay $750.
Yeah.
So $1,250 performing. times?
per,
No.
per performance.
Well, that's what the average bid.
Per performant night. Now, they also pay time when they're setting up or doing
They
anything.
only pay $750.
Right. but
For,
that's-
for the,
that's
for the
posted rate.
use of
The
the,
posted rate is $5.
it's $12.50.
Do they practice
They do.
and pay $750?
No,
No.
they pay much
They do
less.
not.
They pay much less for setup time and practice, and they're fine about all of that.
Yeah, there are reduced rates for the use of a facility for practice, and that's consistent across the Golden News Center, the auditorium, wherever. You have a move-in rate, you have a move-out rate. That's a period of time during which whomever's using it kind of has it blocked off, but they're not realizing any return from using it. And that's a similar practice across all of the,
But
all of the venues.
we don't have access either, so it's.
Right, so it's common and it's fair.
They don't pay much, it's like
Yeah.
$250 a day during practice.
Moving forward, beginning in year 3, which would be 2013, 2014, you would have a series of 5% rental rate increases assigned across that rate card for those groups.
Just for those groups. Just for those.
Just for those groups. This would maintain the favorable spread that they have today and actually increase it just a little bit. I think this proposal really does honor kind of the ongoing and consistent agreement between the Civic Center and these resident companies, and it provides a support and endorsement to the value of the arts and to the opportunities that they're providing the community. Where does that stand? They're in the process of putting together a meeting with Sherman. I would read to you an email from Craig Henderson representing Lone Star Ballet. This is very acceptable to the LSB, Lone Star Ballet, et cetera, et cetera. Mr. David Odell representing the Amarillo Opera. Like others, I'm pleased with the generous sensibility of the city. We will do all we can to make this work. Thank you for the hard and thoughtful work.
So just so I understand, that's a 5% increase in year 13, 14,
Correct.
one time?
No,
No.
4 years.
4 years.
Okay.
5%.
Five a year.
Here.
It'll go up 5% again the next year, the next year, the next year, which they're very amenable.
5 times 4, so that's 20%.
20%.
They'll get to it on the layaway plan.
20% instead of 40. But they're concerned, they believe that once this is completed, they're gonna benefit enormously from what we're doing. They just were concerned about construction and interim time and then arguing at times.
And they said during our meeting, get us through 2 years or 3 years and we're good to go because we know this is gonna benefit us.
And then also confirmation from Susan White representing the symphony. Good morning. This suggestion meets with the symphony's approval, available to meet to discuss the next step. So I think you've heard from
Good work.
your partners.
But there's still a deficit over previous money.
Well, he's,
I'm still at that.
let's let him discuss that. Would you discuss how you filled the gap from what we've
Yeah.
taken out from them?
Yes, and the rental deficit relating to the arts company is really kind of the smaller piece of the total puzzle over there. When you get away from those arts group, the math is not quite as simple. What have we done to close these gaps? We've done several things. Some of the early models didn't account for the fact that many of your performances at the Civic Center, and not really at the arts companies, admit more of your larger performances, will use a lot of comp tickets. Lots of comp tickets.
You're talking about these groups?
No,
Those
no,
groups-
other
Those
venues.
groups,
The hockey,
very
the
small.
football, the-
Sports events.
The comp tickets could potentially have been a pretty big bump in the model. So Dean and his group have worked their way through that, and we've pulled the comp tickets out. We've also lessened the effect of the revenue expected to be generated from the rate increases in the model. And the best way we found to do that was to make a buy down on the front end of the project, which would be less money in the bond, which would be less ongoing debt service, which provided everybody a little bit of breathing room and ability to manage their way through that. That buy down's just a hair under 2,193 something.
It was the projected fund balance in the civic center improvement.
Yeah. And the way that you'll do that is there are some uncommitted civic center projects that will use that cash. You have your $230,000 commission project budget that we've actually had open for several years and haven't been spending. I suggest that you put that in. And then you take the balance from that civic center improvement fund, which is a separate standalone reserve fund. This would pull that down very substantially. Your civic center improvement fund would come down to $360,000, give or take. And then again, of course, with the understanding and the expectation that we're not going to be spending much civic center capital until such time as we know that we're going to do a major project over there or not. You'll see some come through, you know, asbestos abatement and sound system and things like that. But we're not going to put a lot of money in the civic center if we're going to stop in and do some kind of a major overhaul. You will still have sufficient cash funds in the civic center fund to handle most any reasonably unexpected occurrence. If we lose an air handler or a cooling tower or something goes out, we'll be able to do that.
And so the total on that additional drawdown, finance those municipal commitments on those projects, it total comes to what, $2 million?
1,959,26.
But it
One,
doesn't,
that's the amount coming out of this on the buy down.
but it costs less than that. I mean, you're spending a lot less cash to buy that down, the bond issue down that much, right?
We're spending that to buy that bond down by that amount. What we would do is use those funds up
We're
front.
pulling the whole 2.1 out of it.
Yeah, it's pretty much the
high tax
architect
money was
fees.
It's money that otherwise we would have
From
gotten
the tickets
from
and
bond
all.
proceeds and then had to pay it back through all of these various different revenue streams.
So
By
the-
doing this, your repayment stream has gone down a little. That allows you to handle the comp tickets. That allows you, because in reality, putting the rental rate increases on can't happen quite as simply as it appears. You have many groups that are under long-term contracts. You have a limited ability to change that. I think more importantly, what you find is a lot of the events at the Civic Center, you rent the Civic Center for a base rent as compared to a percentage of your performance. So in my mind, simple math, I'll rent it to you for $1,000 or 10% of your gross. Well, if you gross $10,000 or less, you paid the Civic Center the $1,000. If you grossed $11,000, you didn't pay the $1,000 rent, you paid $1,100. And that's truly how most things, especially the big events, are done. Slacking that pressure off a little bit up front is what's going to allow that to work and to work over time and to allow the Civic Center to remain competitive and negotiable and keep attracting events. At the end of the day, we need it full.
But the important part in this project is that we're putting money up front and we aren't showing the increased revenue from the Civic Center, increased rental from the Civic Center to the debt companies. Instead, we're proving.
You are showing, there are still increased rents. That's still part of the repayment
That's still
stream.
part of the repayment that we're showing?
Absolutely, but it's been reduced by
180.
It's been reduced by 180,000 to make it, you know, come within something that we're comfortable we can
really
meet.
do. Okay.
Those won't be pledged revenues, most likely. We'll pledge the hotel tax.
Yeah.
Because they don't like to pledge revenue increases that haven't happened.
Okay.
And we hope.
So they're gonna be looking at our hot taxes.
That's what's gonna
they're
sell
be
the
looking
deal.
at.
So the bottom line is, at the end of the day, talking about increasing the fees by 20% one year, 20% the next, wasn't quite as simple as it sounded.
Not quite as
That's
simple
right.
When you
as it
figure the way the
sounds.
contracts are created and the way
Well,
that
the
they're.
existing ones.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And then this 1959, that doesn't include the city commission discretionary.
It does.
It does.
That's already in there.
Yeah, it's in
Yeah,
there.
Brian, don't expect any more chocolate on the table.
You better eat it now. It's going.
It's all
Okay, I'm just making sure I understand where all the dollars are
Look,
going.
and please keep asking, because it's important. And to paraphrase one of the gentlemen that's been very involved in this, we have turned over the sofa cushions and we look. Everything that you pay up front is that much less than that you issue as debt. Is that much less debt service that you have to force everything to meet and to make over the life of the bond.
What I like about it is that so many different eyes have been on it, and so many tweaks have been made, and everybody across the board has a little skin in the game here.
And our partner walls, which are very on this, WS Crunchy's members, they're comfortable with all that.
Truly, anything that makes your debt service down just dramatically increases everybody's opportunity for success.
And if hot tax revenues go up, you just be sitting in their shape.
Hot tax revenues go up, that's less that you're taking from your civic center
Right.
and from your CVC.
And we have only projected a 1.5, where this year was 9% up, 9 to 11% up.
It was 11% up previous year, and we put 2 in the budget.
Yes.
It's pretty good.
And clarify for me once more, now, the chamber also gets revenue out of hot taxes.
Through what we push to the CVC, yes.
Okay.
Because the CVC belongs to the
And the
chamber.
CVC is gonna split those decreases with the chamber, or is the CVC gonna carry all that and give the chamber their typical blow?
I would expect that that would be some kind of a ratable
That's
reduction.
up to them, right?
Their budget this year is secure too, so they deal with this in
Mhm.
next year's budget. They felt they could do it, they had no qualms about it.
So that's not really our call, we don't have
That's
to
how
dive in
it
that fight at all.
Correct, other than at the very end of the day, that budget does come back to you for approval. In fact, you'll see this year's budget from them just here in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
We,
Gary Mulberg and Jerry Holzer.
And so 11 and 12 is fine, where are you gonna start to see that impact as well?
Next year, yes.
We talked about the commitment on the advertising.
It's in there.
Okay.
we talked to Gary Mulberg more directly about it, he took it back and they feel fine about it.
Okay.
And we've also tasked them with getting more conventions in here, starting to project out 2 to 3 years when this is done, that we need more. They feel they can do that, they feel very strongly about it.
When the work done to pull that,
They feel like they can.
the work done to pull that debt service down also benefits both them. I think right now we're at about 475 each civic center CVC. It's been as high as 550. So, plus any growth, the finance model doesn't account for taking growth in the hot tax to use for debt service. That's money, that's going straight back to your civic center, to your CVC.
That'll go right back to them and
Absolutely.
restore their budget cuts from years before. I got you.
Can I ask a question, Mr. City Manager, but primarily, I guess, directed at Dean because he signed it. Where it says, it is likely that no other hotel occupancy tax supported bonds could be issued for some time. Are any being anticipated? Are we?
No, but we'll try and put an additional bonds test in there. But I think on the San Antonio hotel, the rating agencies made them drop it. But if we set it that so long coverage is 2.5 times, we could issue additional debt. I'd like to put something in there,
Some hook,
just because I never know what we're gonna
we
need in
have
the
to go back to
future.
the trough, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because that's a pretty ominous statement, the way it's,
Yeah. But, I mean, we would still have to see quite a bit of growth if I put a 2.5 test in there.
yeah.
Good.
Here, I have another question, if you don't, I don't want to.
Go ahead.
In terms of the CSL, I was still a little bit foggy on the fact that one of the previous consultants did not include the naming rights in the revenue and the payment that goes with that, is that correct? And when that was put back in ultimately by this most recent consultant, they said that it would break even. Is that suitable to a potential operator? Is that, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is break even includes their operating fee?
It does.
And there's just no additional profit above and beyond that operating fee?
Not for the year 1 model.
For year 1, but they feel the potential of the road's adequate.
The model for that's the tightest one that there is.
The first year is the tightest one.
We don't own a venue that even breaks even. And I'm not aware that there's probably one in town. At the end of the day, the success of that venture is going to be based on that operator and that operator's willingness to hustle and to fill it with events. The model that was evaluated, of course, has the operation of the baseball in it and a very minimal amount of other events.
Right.
Any event beyond that Did they pull it to three?
Three big ones, concert type events.
Yeah,
Yeah, I really feel better.
the next one above that starts to push basically every line item of that pro forma in the positive direction.
Everything is beyond that is profit.
Most of it would be,
Most of
probably,
it
you
will
can
be
still have
operations.
expense, but yeah.
Not only
It's
did-
just covering the nut there.
That's, yes.
and not only did they pull it to 3, but it was 3 not quite sold out either. 3 at 4,000. See?
Okay, and then any profits that come out of future years as volume increases, that will be part of the operator's contract that the LGC negotiates to determine how that's split.
Yes, and it looks like the prevalent model in the industry is that you want your operator to have the best chance of success, so you're kind of minimizing what's coming back to your project. Then you set them up for a revenue share that has some kind of a cap or a trigger into it. You hit this amount, then we're gonna pull, you know,
But it's
99%.
Paying.
It's incentivized.
9.9, whatever it comes out to be. You'll pull some percent of that back then to the project owner, which is gonna be the Amarillo Local Government Corporation.
And so what if the operator is not good? We need to replace operator. Who replaces operator?
Well, your first line would be the developer.
Mhm.
Your second line would be the LGC.
Okay.
You would also have performance metrics inside that operations agreement. You'd also have allowables in there. In other words, if the operator doesn't have that facility booked for the 3rd Wednesday of September, and the city, civic center, whomever has an opportunity to put a performance of whatever nature it might be, the movie night that we've seen for the Boy Scouts, you can do that. Of course, the operator is the one that would run it and would handle it and do the splits. But what you're looking for is how much activity can you put in there? And that's really what makes that one work or not.
There could be nights where there's 2 or 3 events in there, small events throughout the venue. They talk about that down at Grand Prairie. They could have a birthday party in the outfield, and a reception up underneath. the
Private corporate
bleachers,
thing.
Corporate
Yeah.
reception up there, running them simultaneously.
And of course, they'll have the restaurants that open on the street that are running all the time.
And office
These
space
places
and
get
other
married.
things. Do they think there'll be a radio
I
station?
do what? You get
Some places
married?
get married.
Could
Center
be for some
field.
people.
Uh-huh.
There could be a radio station there, and you're gonna have a stadium.
Are you a pitcher or catcher?
Okay, so let's
Is that
go
a
back.
quote?
I want to go back and reiterate how we're going to handle this. I believe we're going to read this, and we're going to get comments. Now, my question is, do you want to give your synopsis of the due diligence after those comments or before?
I might suggest that you have myself and the staff kind of set the stage using this general outline that I just
Okay, and then
ran
when
through.
the comments are finished, I guess after the vote, we want to, Coastal Jolly wants to come up and talk about the next steps.
Mhm.
Is that
I think that's fine.
after the vote?
Yes, after. There's not a next step unless and until
Right.
you have the vote and the action.
Hard to get to second base if you don't get to first.
Yes, sir.
So you're gonna talk about the third parties looking at this?
Yes.
I think that was so
Yes.
important.
Yeah, that's
I
absolutely.
really
So you
love
are
this.
Were you gonna kind of go over your
Yeah.
synopsis that you have right here on your
Yes.
notes? Is that your intention?
This one that I
Yeah,
went
the
through as
process
we
is-
started.
The first part.
Yeah, I'm
Yes.
gonna do that
We're gonna
again.
call on him to do that.
As far as detail of number and so forth, I was not, but I'll answer
No, you don't
any
need to do
question.
that.
I don't
The
think
third
The
paragraph.
synopsis of who did the discerning
Yes.
is critical.
Who, what,
I
when?
have
It's
that.
the third paragraph of your memorandum here. It's really important.
Okay, so we will read the resolution, we will turn it over to Jared, he finishes, we'll open for public comment, we'll come back for our comments, we'll vote on it, we'll turn it over to Coastal Jolly to talk about next steps. We'll move to the next part of the agenda. Everybody okay with that?
Say it all again, I'm sorry.
We will read the resolution, this part, I'll turn it over to Jared Atkinson to give his synopsis of who's looked at
Started
everything.
on his,
We will then ask for public comments, pro and con. I will first say, I'd like a show of hands of who possibly might comment. We'll remind them it's 3 minutes strictly, we'll come up and make the comments, then we will make our comments if we like, and then we'll take a vote. At the end of that, we'll ask Coastal Jolly to come up and do the next steps. Everybody comfortable with that?
And generally, when the commission makes comments, it's a quotient based on your age. Whoever, they get that much time allocated, so one person might pontificate a little more than another. So I was
So you
just,
don't have
So,
anything to say at all?
I usually use a one-word response.
What he said
Commissioner
in
Reeves,
the
would you do me a
LGC
favor?
meeting was giddy up.
Would you set the
I went
timer
on for 10
us? Probably best.
Typical response.
Two
Excuse
comments,
me.
Mayor.
Yes.
One, the manager may have told you in anticipation of a large crowd, we have set up an overflow room. It'll be important at some point, I would suggest, at some point during the public comment period, that you specifically address yourself to the overflow room and say, if some of you are waiting to come in and speak, please make your way into the room now. We're trying to avoid a fire hazard in this room by overloading it. So there is an overflow.
Could we-
If needed.
Somebody please indicate whether that has some takers in that room.
We will. If it's not a large group that won't fit, they're welcome to be in the halls and the lobbies and the monitors and the sound will all be on. If it gets crowded, just when we'll move them, we'll take them down to room 306, and we've got audio and video set up down there as well.
Second point.
Second point, just to point out, there is a subtle difference, so that you're not caught off guard. You will recall the Wallace Pacelli presentation, when they came to their recommendation slide, they had 6 bullet points. They were all written in the present tense or the very immediate future tense. Notice your resolution, the manager went through it, section 2, items
Let me get there in just a second. Okay, got it.
Section 2 of the resolution, items A through E are verbatim the Wallace Pacelli recommendation without gloss. You are making a subtle, you are subtly modifying their recommendation. They said, go get the hearing. You're saying, we'll study it.
Gotcha.
It's a worthy topic. We're going to study it. There is a subtle difference there. I didn't want you to be
There's
caught
a
off
big
guard by
difference
Mr.
there.
Goodrich or someone else.
Certainly. So if somebody comes up, we can certainly remind them of that.
Well, I didn't want you being blindsided. If he says, why did you reject Wallace Pacelli's recommendation about my hotel? Didn't want you to say, well, we didn't. It's in here. Well, it's a little bit different than what Wallace Pacelli, the way they
Recommend,
phrased the timing
investigate,
of
and
it.
consider is what I've got highlighted.
Mhm.
So, okay. All right.
And the overflow room is kind of how the Pope handles things at his major events, just so you know.
Are we
Mayor.
doing white smoke or black
Yeah.
After,
Are there any changes, suggestions, comments that you would like to this resolution?
no, sir, very well done. Anybody else? Let's move on.
No, I'm liking it.
So we're all in agreement that the resolution says basically the Herring Hotel is a good idea, we just don't know what that's gonna look like, basically. Okay.
We'll be
It
studying.
says what it says, recommend.
And I would be nervous to be told as a public motion to specifically go by any piece of
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
yeah.
know, yeah, I'm
You
not
just-
ready,
you took care of
I'm not ready to
negotiations?
do that.
Yeah, you
Be
did.
real short
How much you want?
negotiation.
Oh, 3 million?
You
Okay.
just put us
Yeah.
in a pretty weak spot.
I'm just saying, I'm not
Share
ready
it,
to do
3 million.
that.
I've got that.
Give it to Mr. Goodrich?
Yeah.
Well, they must have had some strong reason, because when they first brought it up publicly, I was curious of why they would bring it up so publicly.
Yeah.
But then we would have to go into negotiation.
Okay.
Sure, sure.
Yes.
And everything, our salesman, you're gonna buy it.
Okay.
You told me you would buy a car.
After,
Copy.
are you
Fine.
ready to have this bag?
LD.
Are you ready
Yeah,
to
please, please
Are we ready to, next one?
do. Mayor, at your
Yeah, appointments. Let's
discretion,
go
we're
on.
ready to go.
Let's go. Appointments.
Okay, appointments, boards and commission. You have 2 on here today, the Amarillo Hospital District Board of Managers. Ms. Liz Hughes is willing to accept the reappointment, should you so choose. And for Paul Crawford, we recommend Bob Stafford.
Let me make a recommendation on whose that motion it is, because I know that they enjoy it, and they have earned it, and they deserve it, kinda. Dr. Bob Stafford.
Oh, yeah. I wrote that down. But this doctor has been, his name.
Well, he knows the whole deal then.
And then the library board.
For the library board, we have a reappointment for Miss Sandra Riney, should you choose. And in the place of Carolyn Blackerby, recommend Rita Wilson.
Okay, I'm gonna ask to consider something before we move on. It was discussed by a couple of people when I walked in the room. Should we move this second resolution and move up the consent agenda to the top and get the consent agenda over with? If there's anybody in the room that has any concerns about consent agenda. I didn't see anything there that I thought would draw people to the room in the consent agenda. Do you think we should consider that, or just go as we propose, or whatever y'all think?
It's entirely at your discretion.
Well, I'm really asking advice. I heard it discussed.
Well, and I think it's good for these people that come to speak to item 2 to watch the rest of our action. It's important to the city commission.
Okay, so leave it like it is.
No, move it to the end. Because they'll get up and leave as soon
Okay.
as item 2 is over with.
Okay, would you all,
Here's the thing I worry about that. You know what I talked about is having the public speak and then us speak. I worry about immediately after that last item, if that's on the end, that's gonna spill over into the public comment
we're gonna have that.
section.
That's true.
And then you're gonna have all
Leave it
kinds of
Okay, leave it like
stuff
it
coming
is.
back.
Well, let's leave it like it is.
Yeah.
This way we're getting 2 bites at the apple.
Okay, let's move on to
After we wear
ordinance
them out.
number
You know,
7290.
except if your public comment is supposed to be about things not on the agenda.
Right.
Ah, true.
Yeah, but you'll be the whole time
If it's an
saying.
No.
agenda
you
item, they
can't
should have
talk.
spoken.
Should have spoken.
We've
The
already
whole
covered
time you'll
that.
be having to say that.
We'll get her. Let's just leave it like it is. Move on, please.
Item number 4, second and final reading of your revised drought contingency plan as amended with the discussion and the input from last week, and thank you very much for doing so. At the moment, here is your timely implementation, should you choose to approve it. The required publications will be on August 26 and August 29, making the enforceable date of the plan September 9.
September 9th.
September 9. Of course, between now and then, the existing plan that you have is in place. And just to use this weekend as an example, you always, of course, have the powers that are granted to the city government under the Disaster Act.
September 9th.
Right now, we are still in that 40% of the reservoir that we discussed about as being part of our system use. Of course, this plea that we're making to the public, this hope that the electricity gives us all we can take, is designed to keep us in that 40%. Once you get past that is when you begin looking at your various stages of that drought.
This reminds me real quickly, as you talk at the first of the meeting, are you gonna say, how are we gonna keep on Thursday, for instance, when the first day can water, everybody from watering at once?
And put them back to where we started in July with your odds and evens.
Okay.
Which means
Go
I
back
get water
on the
main.
normal schedule.
Yeah. Oh, as long as Jared is water his, it's okay. So you're gonna say that as part of it, yeah?
And if I don't, please remind
Okay.
me.
Okay. Next.
Mayor, items 5, 6, and 7 are the second and finals of the public improvement districts. Greenways, Brennan Boulevard, Quail Creek.
Those in our seat.
And have.
You think that's probably right?
Ah, that's bad.
How do you think we fill out those pages with the will be numbers? Mayor, consent agenda?
Yes.
Item A, approval, HIB surveillance grant coming to the city from the Texas Department of State Health Services, often known as DISHES. Current level funding. Item B, architectural services agreement addendum number 5 for Shiver, Meggert and Associates in the amount of $49,600. This is part and parcel of your big airport project. This is largely due to some of the totally out of everybody's controls, the delays that we had in that project as we move forward. Specifically, this is for the resident project representative services. I think you may have met the young lady that has filled that role for us, and I've probably not ever seen a better RPR. But between your July 7, 2010 flooding events and then the previous winter, we flooded the hole that they dug 3 different times. There were several delays, and that's a contract that you're basically paying by the day. So this will square that back up.
Okay.
Item C, Cationic Polymer, annual contract.
I look forward to this every year.
What is a cationic
I
polymer?
have no idea.
It's that stuff they put in the water that makes everything congeal, right?
Coagulate.
It's
Coagulate.
You guys, after doing all that, if I don't foul this word up, thanks a lot.
Not
Cationic is not
I got
catatonic.
it.
No
I
matter what you
got
say,
it. I
don't
got
say
it.
catatonic.
It's not cation.
Thanks, you're helping a whole bunch.
The way you say it.
I got
Manual.
it. Just leave me
Secret
alone.
Jello mix.
Just leave me alone.
The
I was
secret
gonna
Don't you
say-
look over laughing when I say
Just tell everybody it's a flop.
catatonic. We're all gonna be in a catatonic state by that period of time in the future.
Yeah.
I'll hand it to you and you hand it to him.
Okay.
Can you read them?
Good.
Oh, my God.
Let's just have a code with a finger. One is WIU, and
Uh-huh.
2 is the second.
I'm not used to these sort of promptings that you all have had to give in the past. Would you like to delineate why you were giving those and what was the impetus for that?
Well,
Maybe we ought to just let that go?
yes.
Okay.
We're
let's
presuming
move on.
that's all the questions on the
We're being
cationic
helpful.
polymer.
The polymer.
Let's move to something a little more concrete, the flexible aggregate base material annual contract.
We need that.
Huge step.
We need that if we're gonna do any paving.
And you notice we employed a very technical solution to breaking the tie for that particular bid.
I noticed, of course, you had your two that tied for low bid, and then for second place, if you will, were also tied. And then there was the guy that way out in the field.
How'd you break the tie?
Coin toss.
So it's going.
Wow,
That's what
rock,
you
paper,
do.
scissors. Wow. It's not coordinated.
That's the only.
When there's been a tie on bids that can readily be divisible, you'll offer those two ties the opportunity to split it. I'm buying 100 tires of a certain size. If you'll sell me 50 off your bid and 50 off your bid, you each got some. If you don't honor it, or if it's an item that's not really divisible. So in a deal like this, one of their big costs is actually the shipping and the moving. So if you start cutting down the volumes, then their price just blows the bid. So we use that very technical method of breaking the tie.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
That's good old American. Let's go.
Purchase tasers.
Item E, Police Department taser purchase. This is 30 units.
Get excited, Mayor. Get excited.
No, we'll have
Time all out.
You're in the testing phase, and so Jim, I've got to tell you, you drew the short straw.
No.
Okay, moving to item F. Upgrade for one of the Robbie the robots, just for the F6A robot, and I couldn't tell you which of the two that was. Anyway, this is upgrading the control system for that robot. Side benefit of that is it also reactivates the warranty on said control system.
Which one did they put in that did the suspicious package for the civic center? Yeah. Which robot? Don't know.
Picture, kind of a picture in the paper.
That was very interesting.
What was it doing?
Secret.
A ballast for an HID line.
Which
Somebody
can
forgot.
look suspicious.
Left that there.
Black box of orange.
Yeah.
And heavy for its size.
That was time well spent. It was.
Understand that they did page the mayor and ask him to come put on the suit. Just a little slow getting there.
He was gonna be right.
Well, it demonstrates the importance of that,
That robot.
and all kidding aside about the suit. The idea is that if you don't ever have to have a human handle anything like that, you don't ever have a human handle something like that. And that's really where this goes. Panhandle Regional Planning Commission's paying a little over half the cost of this upgrade. We're using seized funds for the remainder.
I thought it was interesting they've got that design so that if the hand blows off, they can replace just the hand of the robot. That's the arm.
How logical is that?
We can rebuild it.
Bionic robot.
Show him my age on
Okay, Mayor, moving to item G. Amarillo Shooting Complex improvement. This is a couple of divider walls that we continue the separation of the various different ranges that are out there. The end goal being then you can do more than one function at the same time and do so quite safely. Already a couple of those walls out there that I think y'all have seen. These will just continue to do the subdivision. This will be largely through the police department seized funds. I would like to note, however, that any of the remaining CO money from 07 that was assigned to finishing out the 6th floor project will go to this first and then the seized funds.
Because you gotta get that spent within a period of time.
Sure.
3 years. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
All right, item H, sanitary sewer main improvements. I think we have a map attached for you back here behind tab H. Working in the Oliver Eagle area, I-40 and Western, 5th and Independent, 32nd and Washington. This again is one of those methods that they can do in place. This is the pipe bursting method. They go through and basically bust what is in there and expand the opening so that they can drag a new liner in place. This is nothing but, time and degradation for those deals. Really pleased it came in as low as it did, 31% of the estimate.
They're gonna be breaking up streets.
I'm sorry, ma'am?
They're gonna be breaking up streets.
No, we're gonna be breaking up the pipe that's under the street to start with, and you'll only have your open digs basically at the corners. And everything in between, you're doing it in place.
Easy to live with.
Yeah.
So much easier, especially in a residential area than, tearing that stuff up. Mayor, that puts us, I think, through the agenda. If there are no further questions on the agenda, you have, well, after today's item, we'll be down to 2 on appointments, one being the Housing Finance Corp. and the second being the Parks and Recreation Commission. If it met with your approval, we could move to a brief closed session, and then probably still be done in time for
For a break.
a few minute break before we move to 3 o'clock. Or we could have a break now.
You want to do break now?
Yeah,
Let's break it down. Come back.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's break now, come back in 10 minutes. Excuse me.
Mayor, just before going to closed session, an update under item B8, B2, on your agenda about groundwater rights transactions. This week we did close the transaction you authorized several weeks ago.
Close number 1.
First closing on the sellable portion of water rights in Hartley County, where the check's been wired in and deal is closed. Now, the second closing, that's a 2-step, 2-part transaction, and we're still now, they're in a due diligence period to see if a way to close on the second.
Would you like to keep that, put that into as part of the water discussion at the beginning?
I'd really like to focus on today's water use.
Yeah, we don't want to tell them we have more.
It's too much.
No. Nobody say we have enough water,
Hey, the Mayor and
please.
Commissioner,
Nobody
closed
say that.
session.
Okay, 10 minutes, we're going to come back and do our 10-minute break.
Good work on it. I
First,
meant to call.
about